Stefan. Spill the beans.
Spill the beans.
Spill the beans. There we go. That's another Aussie one. If you haven't done. Spill the beans. That means...
It means give the details and how it's all happened. And usually with beans, it's a rather messy and rather vast experience. So
I was not expecting some like in-depth analysis or
and,
like
and
explanation of
and
how it
because it's you as well, I think he analysed that word perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, well, see, for the longest time, I thought you guys were crazy.
Oh, yeah,
I
okay,
like
okay.
full thought, but like you know,
I felt it.
yeah,
I felt
Really?
it at one stage. Yeah, I could see it.
No, I
But
was
he
too.
came, you explain it, but
I definitely
there was a
will.
moment where he came to me and I said, I reckon the Holy Spirit's got this one.
He's got
This is not my game,
wrenched around me.
mate.
It's so funny.
That is pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
But that's funny though. You can just tell though. With some people, you just like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but you don't got a choice. It's happening.
It's true.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, not to be a repeat of the past too, but you know, Orthodox Church grew up in, you know, this in quotations faith. You know, but you go to church, you do the seasonal type of things, Easter, Christmas, whatnot. Yeah, that'll be all well and good, but you don't really have much feeling towards it. You don't really care about it. You don't put a lot of your practices and a lot of disciplines, you know, evolving around that. Just mainly, as you've done, as you mentioned, a lot about the world, which I think is how most people navigate their life. But I think what I definitely thought was kind of my roots to God was similar to Tony, going through a spirituality type of process where, you know, you'd go do some energy, spirituality, and you know, Reiki and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
and
Reiki,
yeah, all that weird stuff. So, and it definitely has merit, absolutely. But from what I've found is, like Tony, it never quenched the thirst. I always felt like you're looking for more. It never was a solid answer.
Yeah.
Some improvement, as
you found a pond,
yeah,
but you're looking for the ocean.
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. That's it. See, there you go, guys. There's that analogy.
Yeah.
There's that analogy.
That's one in the books.
That's some of the books. There we go. Write it down, guys. Write it down.
Just start like note taking it.
Tony's okay analogies.
But yeah, so I kind of I went into spirituality a lot. You know, spending a couple of years in that, but always looking for more, and it just was tough. And you know, the world wasn't making any better, as you've pointed out, Peter. And so at the end of the day, I'm trying to understand how morality makes sense with everything that's around. It just it felt like I was living in a lie, a world of fear, doubt, you know, hopelessness. But you're still trying to push along, and I don't even know why when there's not much to kind of gain from it. And then, you know, as 2022 came around, Tony starts poking around in the Book of Enoch, start getting some comments every now and then, but like, don't worry, God will find you. And I'm just like, okay. And then I remember at the end of 2022, that's when I had broken up with one of my big significant partners. I remember from that point onwards, I'd really started setting in stone, I'm going to start following these behaviors, like, you know, staying away from girls, you know, trying to be more mature, you know, more manly in essence of, you know, being strong, being wise, and, you know, being mature. After I started following that faith, you know, that process of not being with girls, not doing this, you know, trying to be more time with family, you know, spending time with you guys as such, you know, I still was lacking something. I still felt like it wasn't the whole answer. Like, I was just unsure. Like, sure, these behaviors were good, but I knew there was more to it. So I didn't know. I was still wrestling with this spirituality, still doing meditation and all that.
Yeah.
Still kind of like just that final piece. Just didn't know what it was. Then you start going to church. I'm like, okay, Tony's doing what he wants. That's cool. Then Mum starts going to church. I'm like, all right. It was when you started going to church. That's when I knew something was up.
Yeah, something's
I was suspect.
Something's happening here.
Everyone knew something was going on.
Like, because for obviously me and you, we've had spirituality. You know, whatever the direction and course it takes, it was whatever. You know, that's fine. You go with you. Same thing for Mum. It was like kind of whatever. But Mr. Logical over here, because that's what in my mind, it's like your logic, your pure reasoning and rationale. And so it was wild to me that you had decided, I'm gonna go to church. I'm gonna be spiritual. I'm like, no. Something is up. And so I just remember having a conversation with Mom one night, and I was just questioning, why do you believe in God? Why should I believe in God? Why does He do this? Why do He do that? And then the question I asked you, and I'll tell you what, this is the comment I think that got me. It's when you walked in, and I was like, well, why does God, let people suffer and things like that? The common question, the common question.
One of the common questions, yeah.
Well, your answer maybe not necessarily, what most people would answer with, but it really sat with me where, it was like, well, people are alone otherwise. If you're the only one suffering, you feel alone, you feel hopeless, you've got nothing else to, like, what are you meant to do? You by yourself. You suffer alone. But it's like, if you're not the only one suffering, someone else suffers with you. And I remember, and you can bond together and you can grow from that, and you have hope after that. And I was like, all right, I like that answer. And so I'm like, all right, I'll come to church on one of the Sundays.
And an interesting point
Nice.
about that sort of comment is there's growth in the struggle.
Yeah.
You grow in a struggle, and yes, there are certainly some sad and much more violently,
That's for sure.
painful experiences that people go through. But we find commonality in one another, and we actually build really strong bonds with people that come and either help us during those times, that really come to our aid. And that's one of the actually biggest blessings that we see, because someone was saying to me the other day, they go, I just see the bad in the world, and I say, and they go, but I try to always be there for other people. And I said to them, I go, it's strange that it's about perception alone, because you perceive it as it's bad, but you, out of everyone that's looking at the situation, you see the bad in the situation, but the person you're showing up for is seeing you as the good in this situation, right? You bring light into the darkness in this place. So it's just such a growth process that you have to go through. And end of the day, if we didn't know the bad, we certainly wouldn't know the good. And that is such a big thing in life, and certainly over my journey.
Yeah. And the things, you don't even need faith to realize that. It's just, it almost seems like kind of common sense in even a worldly aspect, but with faith, it just makes it way more apparent. But anyway, continuing. So, yeah.
Go to church.
Moral of the story, guys. All right, we'll wrap it there. I remember hearing that, and I was like, all right, I'll go to church. I went, and man, did that day break me. That day ruined me, because I was so stubborn about it, but I just remember rocking up, and I'm like, yeah, this place is interesting. I come from an Orthodox church where everyone's like, quiet, and you got the, but then you come to this church, and everyone's busting up on their seats, going, dancing hard, songs are going. They have no right to go that hard, firstly. And the message they'd spoken that day, I just remember being like, this, every time, it's always so targeted. Every time. And you're just like, what's going on here?
You called out every time.
You do.
Every time.
And I don't know why, but it's God. It's really God. Anyway, so, yeah, and I remember the message just being about, being weak. And being weak is what God wants, because then, your pride gets, washed away.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, it wasn't necessarily my pride, but it's this mentality in my head, and I think a lot of people have it, where it's like, well, if I give up, that's it. That's the end of it. I got nothing else left. That's the end of life. I remember thinking like, okay, well, being weak, like maybe I should. Maybe I should just be weak and accept the fact that I don't have it all sorted. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to make this better. I'm having a tough time like everyone else.
Yep.
And then Pastor James, our pastor, goes, if you just want to raise your hand now, and just admit to God, in your weakness, that he wants you, that you want to be weak to God, and that you're asking for His strength, and you're asking for His love and His forgiveness and all these things. Put your hand up now. And I remember, just eyes closed, just raising the hand. But I was so shriveled, like the small, it's like I just like the resistance. And I finally got there. And I just remember after that point, I shattered. Time, body, just everything. I was just like, I'm done. A few tears were shed. And I just remember singing, looking at the music, smiling, like, this is a great day.
It's a great day.
And then it all finished. I got up to James, and then I'm like, I'm wrecked after that. I got nothing in me, but that was the greatest thing I've ever experienced. And he goes, I'm just happy for you, man. And then he passed me off to David. Our
Oh,
I
David.
feel like family friend is a good way to
Yeah.
family friend David. He man,
Now is.
yeah. Well, this guy, ladies and gentlemen, this guy, like man of faith to say the least, and he
Man of the word.
yeah, actual. He just like laid into me with a bunch of like my spirituality because I was telling him, I want to go away on a holiday. Nah, don't go. I'm like, what do you mean don't go? It's not. Trust me, it doesn't sound like it's a good idea. I'm like, okay, whatever. Didn't really think much of it. I'll go if I want to go. Is kind of my thought. But we kept going, kept talking. I'm like, this guy's got some good things to say. But I was exhausted at this point. I just wanted to go home. Next thing you know, we stayed for lunch, and I'm suffering even more. But it was that day I pretty much
Growth in the suffering.
exist.
Yeah.
Bam.
It's also, this is actually, I figured this part out too. Well, I was recently talking to Sarah about it. The parable where Jesus talks about new wine going into old wineskins will burst, right?
Yeah.
So the very first time that I went to the church, the same thing happened where like I was there and I was spiritually overwhelmed. Like it was just so much. So like I needed to go home and relax for like the whole day.
That's really
Like or even a week. Like I couldn't, I could only take so much because I still had an old wineskin, right? And it was being stretched. And that's why being born again of the Spirit, right? You have a brand new wineskin that can take in the new wine, right? It's absolutely incredible when you finally figure that one out because you feel it. You feel it.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. See,
That's Jesus, man.
and that's the thing. The Bible just has answers for all those type of things.
Crazy. It's crazy good.
Yeah. So that day, I pretty much had to decide. All right, I have faith that God is now a thing. He's a thing. He's absolutely a thing. But now is the journey of getting to the point where I could really accept the fact that I wanted to take faith and live and roll with it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And took 2 weeks off, and then I remember it was the second week I took off. The Saturday night, I remember getting absolutely wasted.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And I just remember I was so hammered for the first time in my life. I actually like lost complete control of my coordination balance and just fell back and landed straight on my tush, and it hurt, man.
Tush.
And then
I didn't know that.
and then from that, and then for the
Maybe
rest
I
of the night, I just laid in bed and slept, and slept it off until I woke up in the morning, and I was like, I kind of want to go to church today, but I just can't. I couldn't drive, couldn't do anything.
Oh, that's right. No, I do remember.
Yeah,
that,
and then I watched the online sermon, and then it was from that moment forth. I remember being like, I'm going to church every day, every Sunday, and I did. And as it got on, I just followed faith, and I asked questions, and I figured it out. And it was that point I was like, forget spirituality, forget anything else. God actually is like the way, both experience wise and now I can say word wise and in worldly, like how it all relates is
100%.
just undeniable.
It's the truth that you've been searching for your entire life. It's been right there in front of you the entire time.
Literally.